Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Week 13 EKU football Zoom press conference. Joined as always by head football coach Walt Wells. We're also joined by running back Braden Latham and wide receiver Jackson House, who we'll hear from later. We'll start with coach's opening statements about last week's game against Abilene Christian and this upcoming season finale against Utah Tech. And then we'll move into questions for the players' coach. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody being here. Final week of this, and appreciate you being here all year and all the hard work you do for us. Obviously not happy with the end results, but very pleased with how the effort of our players and the toughness that they showed throughout that game against a really good Abilene Christian team. I know that's not the end all be all because winning is what's important, but when you look at how our players played and approached the game late in the season like it is and the way things are going. Really proud of their character and their competitive spirit. Thought they came out and played extremely hard. Had a mistake at the end that put us a little behind the eight ball there and then finished us out. And we've got to be better than that. We know that, but we've got to continue to fight and get victory. So hats off to Abilene Christian. And then obviously with Utah Tech coming in this weekend, or us going there this weekend, for the final game of the season, we've got to go out and handle the trip, handle the road, the flight and everything to go across the country and go out and and play the way we're supposed to play at 2 o'clock. And we've got to just clean up the mistakes that we made against Abilene and get better. Obviously, we've got to produce on offense, and we're looking at different ways to do that and continue to get better. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
All right, Michael Watkins, we'll start with you.
Coach, you talked about, the disappointment of the loss and the whole season. There's been, it seemed like every game y'all have been right there, especially these FCS games. What do you think has been the biggest reason why there have been those inconsistencies on offense?
Well, I think until you do a deep dive into everything, in the off season, it's hard to totally answer that question. So what I say here, I'll preface that, we've got to study it and see for sure. I think obviously the first thing you look at is the immaturity we had in the offensive lines, and then the inconsistencies with injuries and different things in that group that, kept guys out, some guys out for the whole season. We've had a new center, two new centers since the Austin P game, and that probably created some different things there for us. And then just some guys in and out. So the inconsistencies there, the inconsistencies at tight end. I think when you're looking at our offense, we want to be able to run the ball first, and that doesn't mean we're just a run heavy team. I think everybody knows we throw the ball, but we're not able to establish the run the way we want to. We've got two really extremely talented tailbacks that fight hard, and so we've got to do a better job of creating creases, which you saw at Central Arkansas, and so we were able to do that there, and that just opens up our whole offense. And so I would say starting right there, I'm not putting all the blame on the offensive line and tight ends. That's not what I'm trying to say. We've had inconsistency at wide receiver with injuries. And so guys getting open and being able to double, Cal Wise has been a problem. And so we just got to continue to do that. And we got to get consistent play out of everybody. When things aren't as good as they need to be, then everybody has to raise their game so that everybody can have success. The quarterback, the receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, and the offensive line. And so, I think you were asking about offense, Michael. I couldn't hear it very well, but that's where it's been. And in the games that we were able to have some success, the four games that we won against FCS opponents, we were really able to move the ball and run the football. And our defense has been consistent for the most part, except for maybe really a game and a half is what I think, and played well enough for us to win.
Has there been a player or try to keeping it positive?
No,
Has
yeah.
there been anything that's been a huge surprise for you this year? Maybe somebody stepped up when you maybe didn't think you'd have to rely on that person, or but what's been the biggest surprise to you throughout the season?
It's hard. I mean, I'm gonna leave somebody out, obviously. But I think Brady Hensley came on and did a great job as our number two tailback, really 1B tailback. Braden Latham's 1A. And I think he did a great job offensively of really playing well and in the limited, I don't want to say limited, but in the role that he was in. Defensively, I think there's a lot of guys that stepped up. I think Caden Smith from Campbellsville has done. Taylor County has done a great job of transitioning to that inside linebacker. He played as a true freshman last year, was a backup, and then was a full-time starter, except for when he got injured this year. I think he'll be the first one to tell you he's got to gain some weight and he's got to do some things, but he's a natural in there. I think Brad Gurley. Brad Gurley was a guy that was a backup coming into fall camp. We had an injury to Gabe Fletcher, and he kind of Wally pipped him, and he got that he got that starting job, and he wasn't going to let it go, and it was hard for Gabe to come back and get it back. Gabe's played well, but Brad's played really well, I think. And then Tommy Ziesmer. Tommy came in and from Kentucky and has started every game and played well at the nose guard position and really done a great job for us and like how he's playing inside there. He's got a lot to continue to learn, but you can tell from the beginning to the end he's gotten better. Derek Taylor in the secondary, and I'm trying to, you're asking for the guys that we didn't know about, Derek Taylor in the secondary, who transferred in here from Cumberland University with 2 years left, and he's played really well back there, and we're really glad we have him. So those are, and Buzz Flaviano come in and replace Patrick Nations, and Buzz has come in and kicked well for us on our field goals and extra points. He came in from UTEP, and he really wanted that criminal justice degree, so that helps us out, and so or wants it, and he's done a nice job, and so we got to get him working on his kickoffs, but he's done a nice job. So those are some guys that I sit there and look at and say, all right, these are bright spots. I mean, these are guys that we've got to stick around and do they need to stay here and continue to develop and increase their value, increase our value. And so we're excited about them. I mean, and then you got Jackson House right here, who's probably got the longest reception of the year for us Saturday night. So, he's improved going from quarterback to wide receiver. So there's a lot of, I would say things that the fans don't see that we see and that we know will pay off as we move forward with this program.
All right, last one. For you, when you've had seasons of making the playoffs and you have years like this, is there anything that maybe you've learned that you can do different going into next year that you can take from this year going into a new season?
I think the biggest thing that might help, and we're all in an unknown right now because this portal starting in January is sounded like a great idea to everybody. Well, it's a great idea probably to the 4 to 6 teams that are in FBS that are going to be playing in the Final Four and the finals. So I guess that's what, I don't know, 6 teams maybe, and well, really not 6 teams, probably 4 to 18, whatever, because you're going through all of December trying to figure out what your team is like, what your team is going to be like, what you need to get. And then you have a 2-week window that is going to be wide open and people are starting the semester back. I mean, here's what the NCAA, in my opinion, here's what the NCAA, I don't know who's making these rules, maybe college presidents, maybe athletic directors, and I'm not trying to just place blame, former, whoever's on these committees. They forget these guys got to go to class and that everybody's not on the same academic calendar. Now, we're fortunate. We don't start until the 20th of January. So that gives us some time to try to figure out who's going to be out there for the people that we lose and the people that we need to, which are seniors and then whoever else, and then replace with. And so I think that's what makes it difficult, Michael, is, we lose, a starting offensive lineman in April. We lose a corner we lose some people in the spring because agents are recruiting them and everybody's replacing. I get it. We gotta have better answers. And the biggest answer is you never stop recruiting. We know that. And you better have people to replace every player on your team that are as good and all that. The problem is the experience comes in and the knowledge of football. And so we got to keep fighting. And I'm not trying to make excuses. That's not the point I'm trying to make. That's the life we're in right now. I think you see it like Texas was in the playoffs last year. Now they're going to fight for their life against Texas A&M and whoever they got left to get into playoff this year. The FBS is finding out what this playoff situation is all alike. And that's why there was something last night. Somebody said to me about them wanting to go to 24. Heck yeah, they want to go to 24 because, if you don't make the playoffs, you're in trouble. and so Doug Carter, I don't know if anybody remembers Doug. Doug was the offensive line coach here before me for Coach Kidd. Doug said this a long time ago, and it's kind of funny. He goes, everybody loves, the problem with the playoffs is there's only one person happy at the end of the year. When there's bowls, everybody's happy. And or 50% of everybody's happy. And I get it. What the goals are. Our goals are never going to change here as long as I'm the head coach here. It's be undefeated at home, win a conference championship, play for and win a national championship. Those are the goals and expectations, and those are like I said many times, have been set long before us, and that's our job to uphold that. But those are our lofty goals, and you got to continue to fight, and everybody's got to pull the same direction and get there. So there's a lot of things you learn, Michael, when you lose. Probably as much learning it when you lose as when you win, because winning mask, everybody feels good, everybody's like that. And you got to get to the point where it's all about the process. Are we doing the things that give us an opportunity to do that, and let the outcomes not be a distraction, but let the outcomes be what they are? And if you're doing things right and you're getting the right people in your program and they're working hard and they're staying healthy and they're doing things like that, and everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction, then you're going to have the success that you're looking for.
All right, Keith Farmer.
Long answer, I know, but it is what it is.
Look, if this is a no, then we'll just say no and we'll move on. We won't waste time on it. But when you go on a trip like this to a part of the country that people don't get to see very often, do you try and do things with the team? Or I realize it's a business trip and it's a large team and all that, but do you or no?
No, we don't. I mean, like when we went to the playoffs last year and we went to Philadelphia, when we flew in, we were going to go right by the Rocky statue. So yeah, we stopped. We took a picture around Rocky. We ran up the steps. We did all that stuff because I thought that was something that we could do for an hour and break up the flight and get to where we needed to be. The good thing about flying into St. George is you get to see all the beautiful mountains. You get to see all the beautiful scenery, both coming and going. But no, we don't have a lot of time to go. Now, some of our fans that are going, yeah, they want to go out there. There's a golf course out there that they all keep telling me about that they want to play and all this. And I'm like, hey, man, hit it. Jane Worthington, our softball coach, is from St. George. And so she's not going this year, but she's gone with us the last time. And, and she just stays for Thanksgiving and then flies back on her own. So, no, we don't get, unfortunately, with 140 in your party, it's hard to do anything like that.
Yeah, probably easier with basketball team. When like this is the last game of the season, have you already started conversations? Because obviously you'd like to retain players. Do you already start those conversations, or are you waiting until last game, last minute?
Well, I'll have those conversations. Guys know if I want to. They know I want to keep them. I'm not big in cutting people. I'm not big in. I've done it and we'll continue to do it, obviously. But I'm not big in doing that. And then with people leaving, I understand the opportunities that are out there that we can't match sometimes. And that's hard to do. And, but they know how I feel about them. And we'll have those meetings next week before Thanksgiving. now that we have that opportunity, since we're not going to the playoffs, and express those feelings to negatively and positively. And that's the bad thing about the business now is a lot of the pure development is tough. It's hard to be a young kid, come in and, I could sit here and count numbers and numbers and numbers of guys, Keith, that at, here at Western, at New Mexico State, even South Florida, that, you just keep around and let them marinate. And, they mature. And then the next thing you know, they have a 2-year career. And if you're a 2-year starter, that's a really good career, to be honest with you. And people don't think of that anymore like that. But those days are sadly, they're slowly going away because, you have to have guys ready to go. And because, when my guys get taken, I got to replace with somebody that has the experience and the ability to do what they did, at least. And so that's the hard part of the business right now.
Thanks. Let me know when I play that St. George course.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Well, the bad news is I don't think we're going back out there ever again because they're out of the conference after this year.
All right, Gabriel, any questions from you?
Yeah, Coach, you might recall my son went through criminal justice program there.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's the place to go. That and John Jay College. How great a draw is that to EKU for athletes?
Well, I think, I do think it is a draw. And, my experience here over the years, a lot of football players used to go into law enforcement of some type, you know what I mean? And so, we've got state troopers, we've got FBI agents, we've got Secret Service agents, we've got people that work in the cyber world and do all that type of stuff. So, I think, and we've got guys in, like I said, Buzz Flabiano's family has been involved in, I can't remember, either FBI or Secret Service. And that was a draw to him. I mean, here's a guy that was a 2-year starter at UTEP. And so he had a lot of people recruiting him, but it was a draw for him because he wanted that education, and he did his research and realized that, hey man, this is a good institution for that degree, and one of the best in the nation, if not the best, year in and year out. And so I think it is a draw, and it's good for people. We work with them on things. We do a lot of that. I'd say we probably have 6 or 8 in it right now, and I think that's big for them.
A lot of firefighters come through there as well.
Very correct.
Yeah,
Firefighters, EMTs, all different types of. I mean, it's any given day you can be out on the game field and everybody thinks there's a car chase and a gun and a shootout going on because the firing range across the street and then the car chase thing across the street. And everybody's like, first time people are like, what's going on? I don't relax. They're just, hey, it's class. Don't worry about it.
The other question I have, I don't know, Walt, if you've heard much about this, and then you've been back and forth from D1, but some of the people who don't like when FCS teams play FBS teams, especially later in the season. And now there's this discussion about, hey, why don't we play these games in the spring? And, 10 years ago, that might have had a possibility of working. But now you were just talking about everybody's in transit. Everybody's up in the air. You guys as coaches at every level, you don't know what you've got until spring is over and all that. So, while that might have been a good idea back in the day, do you see any feasibility for that? I don't know if there's any momentum to it, but right now I don't see it working.
Well, I think, and I understand your question, and I think it could work, Dick, in the fact that they have changed the portal to one window. So now once January the 16th is over, okay, your team should be pretty much set. And so it just depends on how you create that team and what you have to create it with. Now that's the difficulty of it because of the the rev sharing and the scholarships and how you can do things. Some people may front load their team and not have as big of a team in the back end. Some teams may go even with it and do it that way. So it depends on how you're managing your roster and what you can bring in. And some it doesn't matter because they've got all the money in the world and they can have as many guys on scholarship as they need to and still be able in the fall and in the spring. So it is a little bit of that going on. I would think a game in the spring or a game in the summer, even in my opinion, like the NFL model, is something that would help these teams. I mean, I just look at the University of Georgia, and I hadn't studied them. Obviously, I don't have time, but you follow the scores and everything. They started off a little slow this year. And even though they only lost one game, they started off, excuse me, a little slow. And now they're playing at a high level. And if they probably would have had some scrimmages or games or whatever you want to call them with other universities, they could work those kinks out. And I think we've got to understand, either it's got to happen in the spring on how we do this portal thing, or it's got to happen in the fall because, we're doing everything like the NFL. Why not go to that NFL model? Why not give us OTAs and all that stuff in the spring? Why not give us everything? Now, I do think we should be able to go out and pad some because we're still 17 to 22-year-olds. And the development phase is getting in those pads and doing some things. And that's the biggest difference from the NFL model where we're at. But I think you'll see some things like that coming down the pike as we move forward because coaches are going to get over, hey, they're going to see my players and try to take. Now they can't. Now if we go play somebody in the spring or in the summer, they can't take your players. So, I mean, they're technically not. Now, I also understand, Dick, if they decide to sue right now, everybody that says I'm going to sue, they get what they want and we move forward and we change the rule. It was going to be 5 for 5, right? Then it was going to be, no, they're not going 5 for 5. Then I think it was a basketball guy sued, and now it looks like we're going to be 5 for 5, which means, 5 years to play 5.
Right.
So, to me, it just, why not just sue and then for everything and then get it the way we want to get it, because we can't do that, but the schools that have the influence do that and set the rules. And that's kind of the issue we're getting into. It's a very loaded, good question, but very loaded question that, now with one portal window, and even if you graduate like in the spring, you can't go in the portal until the next year in January. So now going and playing somebody in the spring, well, they're not going to say, dang, that guy played really well against us. So let's get him and come play on our team. We can pay him more than Eastern Kentucky can. And so, that is, how do I say it? That is the challenge that is at our level. Just like I said, last year, I had an offensive guard who was going to play tackle, who was a freshman All-American, and he's going through spring ball, and some agent reaches out to him, and 3 days later, he's in the portal and ends up at Purdue. I can't match it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you've got all these things, PFF, you get all the, they get PFF grades. Well, PFF doesn't know what the grades are, whether they're right or wrong, and you got all these other people grading and saying, hey, here, the biggest thing they do is these agents do, Dick, is they look at the all-conference winners, the all-American winners, the all this, and then they just start going after them. They just wait for the work to be done for them and then try to go either get their 10 to 20%.
Yeah. Nice work if you can get it.
I don't know if I answered your question, but that's
Yeah.
My opinion will change in a week, just, as this thing rolls and we figure out what we're in.
Well, once they settle into the calendar, it makes things a lot easier. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. With no other questions for Coach. Coach, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll now move into our players portion of the press conference today.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, we'll now go to Jackson House. Michael, we'll start with you.
Jackson, Coach talked about, the big catch you had in the game against ACU. When you look at the wide receiver room, though, there's a lot of guys that have made plays throughout the year, but the inconsistency. So what do you think has been the biggest reason for the inconsistencies with the wide receiver room?
I think at the end of the day, we just got to get on the same page with the as a whole unit. Uh, you see these best quarterback and receiver combos in the country. They're in there working every day, and that's something we definitely try to do. But I think as the season moves on, as we move into next year, just growing better in a relationship with our quarterback, and then also he's got to trust the O line. So that's how it kind of works as a whole unit. I definitely think we have the guys in the wideout room to go and make plays. We just kind of got to put it all together.
When
All
you
right, Keith.
talk about,
Oh.
oh, sorry,
No,
sorry.
Michael, I thought you were done. I thought my fault.
When you talk about this game being the last game of the year, Keith asked Coach about it and stuff. What's the vibe like around the team? What are you guys talking about? Because I know a game like this, there's probably a chance for some of the younger guys to get out there and make plays. So, what's the vibe around the team like?
I mean, honestly, we just see it as another opportunity. We know we didn't make the playoffs, which is definitely disappointing, but at the same time, we get another chance to go make plays, go get another win in that win column, make the record a little prettier. And then we also, like you're saying, we get to develop guys this week in practice and just another opportunity to get better. I feel like that's how we're going to approach this week and hopefully come away with a win.
All right, Keith.
Just building off, last week and what's it been like for you making that whole transition? How do you, take what you've learned this year into next year?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the transition it was smooth in the sense that all the coaches made it that way, but there was definitely a learning curve, like you were saying. I mean, I've been behind the line of scrimmage playing quarterback my whole life, and then now I'm out wide trying to make people miss in space and that kind of thing. So just almost training in a way this off season that'll get me prepared to go make plays more often. And then Coach Cox, he's been great, just getting in with him more and preparing to have a better season next year.
Do you feel like that having been under center kind of helps you somewhat, give you an advantage on that position?
I think the biggest way I noticed is in like coverage wise. Like if we don't have a ton of them, but there's some routes where you got to read one high or two high. And I feel like I can see that pretty well just because, I mean, when you're playing quarterback, you got to know what coverage they're in to know where to go with the football. And that part of quarterback definitely helped me when I switched to receiver.
All right, Dick, any questions from you?
No, he pretty much covered it. Thank you.
All right, Jackson, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll now welcome in Braden Latham. All right, Braden, you got us?
Yes, I do.
All right, then we'll go to Michael Watkins.
Braden, we know this year's been frustrating, talking to you before the season, feeling all the excitement of the season finally being here and seeing the ups and downs that come with it. When you look back on the year, though, what's it been like being out there and going through the highs and the lows?
So like talking with Coach Wells like before, we had a talk like last week and stuff like that. And talking to him, like we kind of knew we had like an inexperienced line and like our offense, how we establish ourselves is like we need to like establish the run, like establish the line of scrimmage and that gets to open up the pass and like lets our receivers play more like freely and stuff like that because the defense just gotta do something. And just being with this team like through the highs and lows, it's been I mean, there's still family and brotherhood at the end of the day, and like team has like all teams have. They have good games, they have bad games and stuff like that. So it's never really like affected my mentality for the game or like my love for the game and stuff like that. Like we all know, like you can't win every game. You can't run every 80-yard touchdown like and stuff like that. So it hasn't really affected me, but like there's always wants that come with it like as well and like you always want to be the best team and like you always want to win your conference and go to the playoffs and stuff like that. And but yeah, it's a little sad to be real with you, but again, like there's always next year, and I know we're gonna come back bigger and better.
All right, last one for me. How important is it to win this last game and try to carry some momentum in the next season?
So I feel like it's real important, and not giving up on this last game as well, because one thing I feel like, I'm a competitor, and like when I get on that field, like I wanna win every rep. I wanna score every time we're on the field and stuff like that. And one thing I try not to forget, and which I can't forget, is all this work we did in the off season. So like the spring and like the summer and fall camp, like, and just going out there and giving up. It's just like, what was all that for? Like, what was all those early mornings? What was all those workouts? What was all those team practices and stuff like that? Like, it's like, come on, because like at the end of the day, this is what we love to do, and this is what we like strive to play for and stuff like that. And it's just a another opportunity like that God has given us, like to display our talents on the field and stuff like that, to because people want to watch us play, and like I feel like we want to play for ourselves as well. So like if you're not out there doing it for yourself and like doing it for the people that are supporting you like through the off season, the spring and stuff like that, then like what are you really here for? And I feel like we've got a full team of guys, like 11 on 11, special teams, defense, and offense that want to go out there and do their best.
All right, Keith, any questions?
Yeah, I love your attitude about it all. And I mean, coach has kind of talked about how you guys just kept coming in working hard. How is that? How has that shown you, this team coming together and just working hard despite, some of the lows?
I feel like we've just got like that non-giving up spirit, just even despite the losses, like we're still coming out and like pouring rain. I don't know if that was like last week or something. Like it was just rainy and cold. But we're still out there headbutting each other, like throwing passes, still competing, doing everything we need to do just to try and get a win and stuff like that. So I just love the attitude around the atmosphere, and like, there's gonna be like a couple guys who weren't really in it, and then but then you gotta kind of gotta convert those guys to the other side. You know what I mean? And just be there for everybody, for real, because like I said, the spring and the off season, the summer, fall camp, especially fall camp, that's when we're living together. Basically, we're all just living together, and all that time we put in, all that time and effort. It's just like you gotta remind them, like, just not give up, bro, because like we all did it for something.
What has you excited about? I mean, obviously one more game to go, but what has you excited about next year? Things that you've seen that you all can build off towards, next season getting a quicker start.
So, we know talent goes a long way on the field, but what else goes a longer way is experience, and Coach Wells like to say that as well. So, I feel like now that we had an inexperienced O-line, so now they got like 12 games under the belts, even with injuries and this, that, and the third. I feel like we're gonna come back like a potential threat for everybody, for real. And experience wise, like we've got a quarterback that's been in the system for a year, O-line that's been in the system for a year, and then like Jackson House was saying, like this offseason is gonna be real big for us because now we know like the inexperience hurt us this season, and so we've got to come back experienced and just build that connection, like build scenarios for each other and stuff. So.
All right, Dick, any questions from you for Braden?
Yeah, he's nailed a lot of them, but I guess Braden, my only question is, on game day, I'm sure when you get up in the morning, you got that kind of feeling, you can't wait to get there, whether you're on the road or at home. In a season like this, is that been consistent every Saturday morning?
I say absolutely, Dick. It's just like I don't mean to be like sound like a broken record or anything, but man, like we get 12 games out of the year to go put our talents and what we've been working on for so long on display, and it's just an opportunity, and I'm just excited to go show what I've been doing in the spring, off season, fall camp. It's just amazing, and then for us to come together as a unit, like as a team, and just go put that all on Saturdays, and like for the community and the people that come support us. Like we're all from all around, like Florida, we're all from like Georgia, and I think Miles came from like Oklahoma, something like that. Oh, Milwaukee, like come on, like, and then his family comes down and travels. So like it's just, I don't think my mentality ever changes, for real, because it's just love for the game at that point, Dick.
Thank you.
All right,
Contagious, man. I like it. It's awesome.
Braden, for real, thank you so much for being on the call today. Really appreciate it. And
Appreciate
thank
y'all.
you to all the media members. All right, that'll be all from us. Thank you for
All
joining us
right.
this season.
See you
Thanks.
guys.